I'm 81 years old now, and there's a strange feeling that comes when you realize there are more years behind you than ahead of you. At my age, you spend a lot of time looking backward, not because you want to, because the past starts showing up on its own. Some memories arrive gently, others sit beside you like old debts that were never paid. The one that visits me most often is the day I sold my house. At the time, I told myself I was doing the right thing. I believed I was helping the people I loved. I believed family came before everything else. I still believe family comes first. But if I'm being honest, selling that house became the biggest regret of my life. Not because of the money, not because of the property, because of what disappeared with it, and because I never understood what I was really giving away. I bought that house when I was 34 years old. It wasn't anything special. 3 bedrooms, small front yard, a little porch that creaked when someone walked across it. The kitchen cabinets were already old when we moved in. The roof needed repairs every few years. The air conditioner seemed to break during every heat wave. But it was ours. Back then, my wife and I were raising 2 children. Money was always tight. We counted every dollar. We delayed vacations. We drove used cars. There were months when I sat at the kitchen table late at night with a calculator, wondering how we'd make everything work. But somehow, we always did. The house became the center of our lives. Birthday parties happened there. Christmas mornings happened there. School pictures were taken in front of that old maple tree. My children measured their height against a doorway in the hallway. Little pencil marks climbed higher every year. Even after they grew up, those marks stayed there. I never painted over them. I couldn't. Every line felt like a piece of time. Years passed. The children left home. My wife and I grew older together. The house became quieter, but it never felt empty. There were memories in every room. Sometimes we'd sit on the porch in the evening and talk about things we'd already talked about 100 times before. The first time our son rode a bicycle. The family camping trip where it rained for 3 straight days. The Christmas when we couldn't afford much, but somehow everyone said it was their favorite. Small things, ordinary things, the kind of things you don't realize are precious until decades later. Then my wife died, 46 years together, and then she was gone. I won't pretend I handled it well. I didn't. For a long time, I wandered through those rooms like a man who had lost the map to his own life. Every corner reminded me of her chair, her coffee mug, the spot she stood when she watered the plants. Some people told me I should sell the house then, start fresh, move on. But I couldn't. That house held the last pieces of the life we'd built together. Leaving felt like losing her twice. So I stayed. Years went by. Then my son called one evening. I remember exactly where I was sitting, the living room, the old recliner near the window. His voice sounded tired, worried. He told me his business was struggling. Debt had piled up. Things were getting serious. He wasn't asking for money, not directly, but fathers know. You hear what isn't being said. I listened for nearly an hour. When the call ended, I sat there staring at the wall. I barely slept that night. The next day, I called him back. I asked how much he needed. The number was larger than I expected, far larger. I had some savings, but not enough, not nearly enough. And that's when the idea entered my mind. The house. The house had appreciated in value over the years, a lot, more than I ever imagined. I remember thinking, what good is a house if your family is suffering? What good is sitting on an asset while your son is drowning? The decision seemed obvious. At least it did then. My daughter tried to talk me out of it. She was careful, respectful, but I could hear concern in her voice. Dad, are you sure? I told her family helps family. I told her money comes and goes. I told her everything would work out. Those words sound different when I hear them now. Everything would work out. Funny how often we say that when we don't actually know. Within a few months, the house was listed. I still remember packing things into boxes. That might have been the first moment I realized what I was doing. Not financially, emotionally. Every object I touched carried a memory. Photo albums, old Christmas ornaments, my wife's recipe cards, the baseball glove my son left behind years earlier. I found things I hadn't seen in decades, little pieces of a life, a whole lifetime reduced to cardboard boxes. The day I handed over the keys felt strange. The new owners were excited, young, full of plans. I smiled, wished them well. Then I sat in my car and looked at the house one last time. I thought I was saying goodbye to a building. I wasn't. I was saying goodbye to something much larger. I just didn't know it yet. The money helped my son. For a while, his business survived, at least temporarily. Bills got paid. Pressure eased. Everyone thanked me. They told me I'd saved the situation, and for a short period, I felt good about the decision. Useful, needed, important. Then life kept moving, as it always does. A few years later, the business failed anyway. Different problems, new debts, circumstances nobody could control. The money was gone, not wasted, just gone, like water poured into sand. I never blamed my son. I still don't. He worked hard. He tried. Life doesn't always reward effort. But that's when the first real regret appeared. Not all at once. Slowly. Quietly. The way regret usually arrives. I was living in a small apartment by then. Perfectly fine place. Nothing wrong with it. But it never felt like home. It felt temporary. Even after years, family gatherings changed. There was no house for everyone to return to anymore. No familiar porch. No hallway with the height marks. No kitchen filled with old memories. Holidays started happening in different places. One year at my daughter's house, another year at my son's. Sometimes people were busy. Sometimes schedules didn't line up. Attendance became smaller, then smaller still. Nobody meant any harm. That's simply what happens when the anchor disappears. Families drift, not dramatically, just a little at a time. I noticed grandchildren who had no connection to the place where their family story happened. They never sat under that maple tree, never saw the marks on the doorway, never stood in the backyard where countless summer evenings unfolded. Those things were gone, and once they're gone, they're gone. The hardest moment came about 10 years after I sold the house. I drove past it one afternoon. I wasn't planning to. I just found myself heading in that direction. The neighborhood looked different. New paint, different cars, different people. But the house was still there, standing exactly where it always had. I parked across the street, sat there quietly, and for the first time, I cried. Not because I wanted the property back, not because I missed the investment. I cried because I realized something. For nearly 50 years, that house had been the physical home of our family, not just walls, not just land. It held our history, and I had given it away thinking history could be transferred into memory. But memory changes. Memory fades. Places help memories stay alive. I understand that now. At 81, I understand many things too late. I understand that some decisions are impossible to undo. I understand that helping someone in the moment can create losses
that only reveal themselves years later. I understand that sacrifice sounds noble when people praise it, but living with the consequences is something else entirely. Sometimes I imagine an alternate version of my life, not a perfect one, just a different one. Maybe I keep the house. Maybe my son still struggles. Maybe things turn out exactly the same. Maybe not. Nobody knows. But in that version, there is still one place where every chapter of our family story lives under the same roof. One place where I could sit today and feel connected to all the years that came before. Instead, I sit in this apartment, a comfortable chair, a few photographs, some memories, and a regret that visits often. The strange thing is that I don't regret loving my family. I don't regret wanting to help. I don't regret being a father. What I regret is believing that love required me to surrender the foundation beneath my own feet. There's a difference. I couldn't see it then. I can see it now. Age teaches lessons. The problem is that the lessons often arrive after the exams are over. When you're young, you think sacrifice always leads somewhere meaningful. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes sacrifice simply leaves a hole, and you spend the rest of your life looking at the empty space. I don't tell this story because I'm angry. I'm not. My son and daughter still love me. My grandchildren visit when they can. I've had blessings in my life that many people never receive. I know that. I'm grateful for it, but gratitude and regret can exist in the same heart. I've learned that too. You can love your family completely and still wish you'd made a different choice. Both things can be true. If you're listening to me right now, maybe there's something in your life you're thinking about giving up. Maybe you believe there will always be time later. Maybe you think certain things can be replaced. Sometimes they can. Sometimes they can't. The difficult part is knowing the difference before it's too late. I wasn't able to, and that's why this memory stays with me, not every day, but often enough, especially at night, especially when the world gets quiet. I find myself thinking about that old porch, the creak of the boards, the maple tree, the pencil marks in the hallway, my wife's laughter drifting from the kitchen, the sound of children running through rooms that seemed enormous back then, the ordinary moments, the ones that looked so small while they were happening, the ones that turned out to be everything. I suppose that's what old age really is, not counting your successes, not adding up your possessions. It's sitting with your memories and finally understanding their value. Sometimes understanding comes with gratitude. Sometimes it comes with sorrow. Usually it comes with both. And if this story meant something to you, then maybe that's enough. Maybe an old man's regret can still serve a purpose. As for me, I don't spend much time wishing I could go back anymore. There's no point. The house belongs to someone else now. The years belong to the past. And I belong to whatever time I have left. Still,
Every now and then I close my eyes and walk through those rooms one more time. I know exactly where everything was. I can still see the sunlight coming through the kitchen window. I can still hear my wife calling my name. I can still feel what it meant to be home. And for a moment, just a moment, I'm there again. Then I open my eyes. The room is quiet, and the memory fades, just like everything eventually does.